For around twice as long as many of you have been alive, Godzilla has been holding the mantle of the king of the monsters. And you don't have this level of success for being a The G-Man is practically indestructible, but in the current lore of MonsterVerse Godzilla's biology, there is one highly important and, until now, secret weakness that may just have a part to play in Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong. 99% of the time, Godzilla lives or is traveling in the deep oceans of Earth, occasionally not being seen surfacing from down below for weeks up to months. Which begs the question, how does Godzilla breathe? Or if he even breathes at all? Information regarding this has come out in the open recently, and the way how he manages these amounts of time underwater is with the adaptation of his gills. Yep, legendary Godzilla has nature's own underwater breathing system. What were at first thought to be overlapping scales on the neck of the G-Man are indeed his gills, and if you don't believe me, here's the evidence to back it up from some of MonsterVerse Godzilla's creators. Godzilla designer Christian Pierce in an FX Guide interview said, "One of the first conversations we had about Godzilla was that we all agreed that Godzilla is fundamentally impossible. There's nothing you could do to logically rationalize a creature of that size and standing and physiology. We had to take the lead and hope that the audience would take it with us. He's impossible, but it's Godzilla. We're almost detailing him from the outside, which is the opposite to how we usually work, where we design creatures from their environment outwards. We did look at the natural world, including marine creatures. Godzilla spends 99% of his life underwater, so we looked at marine iguanas and large oceanic mammals, even by adding gills. So there's a lot of inspiration coming from real-life animals with Legendary's Godzilla, and that's awesome. Gareth Edwards, the director of Godzilla 2014, added this to the matter as well. You might say, oh, he should have gills. He's underwater and he's got no lungs. How else does he breathe? It might make some fans turn in their graves to know that we did this, but if just one thing comes from it, it's well worth it. Him saying Godzilla doesn't have any lungs is interesting, but we can save that for another video. But there you have it, gills confirmed. This isn't the only Godzilla to sport these either, as the Showa Godzilla used gills as a lore-based excuse for the holes that were placed in the early Godzilla suits in order for the actor to breathe and not be suffocated. As useful as these may be for the G-Man to be able to breathe, and it is pretty sweet that they included such a realistic feature to a fantasy monster, but these gills may just become a nasty problem for Godzilla in his upcoming fights with Rodan, Ghidorah, and Kong. You know, one of the recommendations is to punch or jab a shark's gills if it's attacking you. Why is this? Well, take into account that gills are a vital part of being alive for sea-living creatures. It's how the animals are able to live and breathe underwater for their entire lives. So getting jabbed in the gills to these creatures is basically like getting the air knocked out of you simultaneously with getting kicked in the nuts. And for you ladies, whatever's the equivalent to that. And sharks don't really appreciate that. In short, the gills are one of the very few weaknesses that a shark has on its body. So why would it not be the same for Godzilla? The Mutos never took advantage of this possible weakness, but they came across as simple-minded monsters. Unlike what we are more than likely going to see in the upcoming Godzilla King of the Monsters, and certainly when Godzilla is set to face Kong. Rodan may know to target the gills of Godzilla and slam his mass into his neck. King Ghidorah may use one of his 3 heads to hold Godzilla's snout, while the other 2 heads go for the gills on the side of his neck with crushing bites or furious blasts of his electrical beam. And Kong, being the potentially smartest of all the Titans, would make quick work of this weakness, punching, tearing, and jamming anything he could into what is practically Godzilla's only weak spot in this rendition. Going back to King Ghidorah, I really have a feeling that the 3-headed monster is going to take advantage of this weakness. Now, I'm not the only one who thinks this, but I am leaning towards Ghidorah winning an initial fight with Godzilla, possibly taking advantage of this weak spot. At the end of the day, the gills found in this version of Godzilla may be a massive weakness that very well may have a part to play in Godzilla's upcoming battles. Or they may just be a cool little detail added to further the unique and fairly realistic representation of the giant lizard. What do you think will come of these gills? Make sure and discuss down in the comments. Before we go, I just wanted to remind you guys to check out our Instagram and click that notification bell so you know when we upload. This has been Jacob, and as always, peace out, residents.